Welcome to Better Together, a Vaishnava family podcast.
A podcast where we explore family life from a Bhakti yoga perspective. We are your hosts. I'm Aksh.
And I'm Gopika. Welcome to season 2. We're here! Our babies are sleeping for now. I was actually thinking that last year talked about how sleep was less all over the place. You're laughing because you know exactly what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
It was not long after we recorded that podcast that sleep went downhill. That 12-month regression hit hard and we were back to like newborn level wakings around here. Now we're growing molars all of a sudden. So yeah, anyway, let's hope that we can get through this podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. It's 2025.
Yeah.
It's the time of year to reflect on our lives and perhaps consider making changes and set goals.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking, why not take some time to reflect on our parenting and our family?
Yeah.
What do you think about this idea of parenting as something you need to reflect on and work on and learn? Almost like a skill, in the same way that perhaps in a professional career you might set goals for yourself and really like try to grow your career, right? Like you have annual reviews and things like that. Is parenting something that we need to be seeking out education on? Or is parenting something that you walk into? You find your inner instinct. Perhaps you lean on wisdom from previous generations in your family. What do you think?
Is parenting intuitive or is parenting learned? Maybe it's a little bit of both. At the end of the day, all that kids need is shelter and love.
Yeah.
And
good enough parenting model.
Right.
Absolutely.
Is that what it's from?
In the psychology world, there's a concept called good enough parenting, which is basically like all analysis said and done. Is your kid loved? Is your kid's physical needs being met? Right? They'll probably be okay.
Yeah. Most of people would probably agree on these things as a value. The idea of kids needing shelter and love is like a principle. But how that principle like actually is applied, like what does it mean to show my kid love in my context today with my specific situation?
Right.
And so that's where I feel we do need to take support of other resources that help us. Parenting being just completely intuitive and passed down, I'm not sure that necessarily applies to anybody really, because we all have to adapt to our context.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true, right? I think you make a great point. What was our instinct built on? Our instinct was built on how we were raised.
Yeah.
And so when we are just operating off of our own minds, our minds are running scripts that have been downloaded from our own upbringings and our own experiences to a certain extent.
No, it's true. That's a great point. The idea that there are some scars that we're already carrying. And therefore, when we say I'm being intuitive or I'm just going with my gut, it's just hard sometimes to know what do I mean by that? Is that I'm reflexively bringing in some scar that might not be the best approach in this context? Am I operating from like a lower nature in this context? And so I think there's always been an importance in the value of guidance, even in Shastra and Bhakti.
Yeah. I think it's like a crazy world though when it comes to parenting education now, especially after COVID. There was an explosion of accessible parenting education online.
Yeah.
As much as I have learned so much from Instagram, it is the wild, wild west. As the years have gone on, I've had to actually catch myself in terms of what I'm consuming. There's a lot of people out there with a wide variety of credentials. A lot of people don't really have any professional accreditation online. They're just like out there marketing their business really well. I think also asking myself, how am I feeling after I consume this content? Because even from people who are accredited, have a lot of experience in their field in child development.
Yeah.
The way that they're presenting their content, is it making me feel not good enough? Is it making me feel discouraged? Because if I'm always feeling like I'm not good enough, then I'm actually not going to be able to enjoy my child and find joy in this process, which ironically is one of the keys to building a secure attachment. No. So I think finding that balance is really important for me personally. I was also thinking how the practice of reflection seems to be so critical in practicing bhakti. If we look at our foundational scriptures, Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita, it's based off of question and answer. It's based off of someone being like, how do I figure this out? Or what does this mean? There's actual data on the tangible benefits of engaging in self-reflective activities across all areas in life. People who engage in self-reflective practices often have lower levels of stress, and they're more likely to get a promotion at work, professionally. There's just powerful benefits across the board. I can definitely see where you can go too deep in the hole with regards to parenting. Like in Gujarati, they call it chavi chavi ne chiknu kare. Like you chew the chewed, like you chew it so much it becomes icky. But yeah, I do feel like this is worth it. What about you?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think educating ourselves has been something that's helped us tremendously.
All right, so let's get into it.
Yeah.
What do you feel like are your parenting goals for 2025?
Yeah. One of the things I had on my list is trying to spend more quality time as a family. I think there's two aspects to this for me. One is one-on-one time, quality time. And I feel I need to kind of figure out where that time is. And then quality time as a family, like just more adventures.
Yeah.
Having more fun together.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, one of the big highlights for me from last year was going on a road trip. And even though that week was pretty hard, I still think it was fun.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, how can we make it so doing that stuff doesn't feel as intimidating? Because that's the barrier, right? If we're going to go on a trip like that, we need to do XYZ things. And so it just kind of feels like, no, I don't want to do that. I'd rather just stay home. But we really had a lot of fun. So even if it's a little bit more, we should do some things together.
Yeah. I wrote down something similar. I wrote down, I want to enjoy my kids the way that other people enjoy my kids. Because when I see, family members, friends interact with our kids, it's like they have so much fun.
I don't have to worry about everything else.
Yeah, well, of course, right? Like, I have to see myself with self-compassion too, right? Because part of this, it's like, oh, as a mom, am I failing because I'm not really finding that moment? And at the same time, as a mom, I'm also bearing the burden of so many other aspects of care, right? Like having fun with your child is just one tiny piece of the pie. There's so much more responsibility to bear in the house, and that can definitely dampen and make it harder to have fun with someone when you are sleep deprived, tired, cooking, cleaning, wiping poop, right? But I think that is a goal for me, to find those moments where I can just let go of the responsibilities, as hard as it is, even for small amounts of time, and just play and have fun. I do love your idea of getting out of the house more, because I think when we're out of the house, we have to let go. Yeah. You can't fold laundry and play at the same time when you're out of the house. Yeah. But if you're in the house, when you're playing with your kids, it's like, oh, the laundry, or, oh, I need to be like meal prepping or whatever it is, Yeah. So I love that. I'm with you.
Yeah.
What else?
Just trying to be more patient and kinder. Because I can see how, especially as our older one is getting older, that he makes it very clear if I'm being more intense, I think I can be kinder.
Yeah. I wrote down working on my triggers, expanding my own window of tolerance when I snap into that little bit of unkindness, or just things that we do when we're tired and our buttons are being pushed. I wrote down one in specific, and that's like mealtime triggers, because I feel like as of late, as our 4-year-old has re-entered a more picky eating phase, he's gone through several and come out. So I should learn that it's okay, it's temporary, he comes out of it, and he's generally still eating a really good wide variety of foods. But yeah, it's so hard at the table to do that division of responsibility. I'm still here struggling with meal refusal. It's easy to say, just like let go of it, but like it's actually hard when it's like totally rejected. Really trying to keep things positive at the table, focusing on, if I really want to show respect to my child, I'm going to allow him this power of choosing what goes into his body. Yeah.
I think the hard part is like doing these things, it requires us to have more capacity.
Yeah.
I need to feel I'm also investing in myself and taking care of myself enough.
Yeah. It's hard.
And then otherwise I'm like on edge more because I feel empty. That should be a goal too.
Yeah, maybe
really.
it is a goal.
What's our plan to fill our own cups so that we can be more patient?
100%. I feel like we're vibing in terms of like...
We have the same problems.
We have this... True. Yeah, I wrote that down too. I literally wrote down up the focus on myself a little bit more. Somehow transitioning out of survival mode, which is hard. Survival mode really pushes you in the present.
Yeah.
You can't really plan for anything because you're literally just going moment to moment.
Yeah.
But the issue there is things might get left out. Literally, the little habits and routines that you have is what helps you to live life according to your values. Survival mode doesn't necessarily equate living life the way you want to live life.
Yeah.
Now that our kids sleep a little bit more, dare I say it, now they're going to all wake up. But for example, we had a couple of nights where both kids slept through the night and I woke up early-ish, feeling rested. And I literally didn't know what to do with myself.
Yeah.
And I kind of just like ended up scrolling on my phone because I like didn't know what to do. And that's probably the worst use of time in the early morning hours that I would ever want to do. But I think it's because I haven't had the space to really think about, okay, now as a mother in this phase of life, what do I want my mornings to look like? Because normally I'm just trying to scrap for every minute of sleep I can get. And then it's like off to the races once everybody's up, you know? Yeah, just starting to up the focus on myself, figure out if I do have a morning to myself, what would I like to do? And try to do it.
I think it's going to be little bit by little bit, you know, because I think things are still very variable.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
With sleep, and they will be for a little bit.
Yeah, until all those teeth come in.
Yeah.
And all those regressions. Yeah, it takes time to really count on it. And that's what makes it hard too, right? I hold myself back because I can't count on that time. So I don't want to set myself up to think that I'm going to do this thing for myself.
Be disappointed like regularly because something happens.
Exactly. And feel like a failure.
Yeah.
But I also think that's maybe not the right way to think about it. Rather than what if they wake up? What if they don't? What if I did have a morning to myself? Like challenge myself to create that morning and try it whenever I can. And if it doesn't happen, whatever, it doesn't happen. But I agree with you. We do need to look a little closely about how we can really care for ourselves. Yeah. Anything else on your list?
This is something a little different, but I was thinking that all kids like stories, and you know we've done a few stories with them, and particularly with our older one, and he really likes like the Ramayana, for example.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if we want to explore and expose him to just more variety of stories. I mean,
Yeah.
there are so many stories. That's just something that came to mind that might be interesting for them and also enriching for us and connecting for us as a family.
Yeah. No, that sounds really fun. I would love that. And maybe it would also nourish us in some ways, because I don't know about you, but there have been times where I had to like sharpen up on Ramayana and all the details because all the questions that have come. But yeah, I love that.
You have anything else on your list that you didn't cover yet?
Yeah, I had two more things.
Mm-hmm.
The first is working on building a culture of gratitude in our home a little more. And I think that in reflecting on this for myself, again, operating in survival mode, I feel like doesn't always allow me the space to recognize the things that I'm grateful for all the time, because I'm just trying to keep people alive.
Yeah.
It's hard to take a moment to breathe and be like, wow, so much is going well.
Right.
You're doing great. You have a beautiful family. You have support. You are loved. And again, self-compassion, because it is really, really hard to raise little kids. And at the same time, I think that it is important for myself to have a bit more gratitude and also work at it in our home, because the way that I interact with the world is ultimately going to be the way that our kids interact with the world, right? So we kind of started trying to work on it since the new year, like really having some tangible ways that we're starting to thread gratitude into our life. One really fun thing is playing Rosebud and Thorn at the table.
Yeah.
And somehow our 4-year-old kind of got the game, you know, where Rose, you share one really great thing that happened. Bud is something that you're excited about. And Thorn is something that you're disappointed about, because gratitude can also only live with accepting the disappointment.
Yeah. So
I love that.
Yeah.
And so, we started a jar called the Sharma Rose Jar. I hope that we can continue it.
Yeah.
I want to fill that jar so at the end of the year we can reminisce as a family, and there's kind of like this current of gratitude in our house, but also making it a point to show appreciation towards other people very tangibly, maybe even people that we don't often, like maybe we leave something for the mailman or the delivery people at our house, or I've been terrible about appreciating the educators in our kids' lives. Not because I don't appreciate them. I so much appreciate them, but because I just literally can't figure out how I'm going to figure out another thing in life at the moment. But making that a priority, you know? So that was one. And then my last goal is parenting for my kid, and not, in Hassan Minhaj's words, log kya kahenge, right? Parenting for my kid and what I feel is right, and not out of fear of judgment from other people. I am realizing that I'm still impacted by the thoughts and opinions of others, even if I push back on them. Sometimes they can make me feel very uncertain in what we are doing in our parenting and feel shaken in the decisions that we're making. But I would be doing my child a disservice if I'm not really careful about what voices I'm letting in. Not everybody's opinion of your parenting is equal. The people who have parented, our values align. I look up to and I respect them, and I trust that they know me and they know my heart. I take their feedback very seriously, and I feel like I want to seek it out because I want to improve. I want to make sure that I'm not making decisions out of fear or scripts that I don't want to be running my life, right? And other opinions that don't meet that criteria, perhaps I thank them for it, but not let it really sink in. Because I do feel like I am sensitive and it does affect my heart. So.
Thank you for sharing that. So you were saying before, like, there's also a lot going well.
Yeah.
And being grateful for that. What do you think is going well? Like, what should we keep this year?
Yeah.
Keep doing?
Yeah. Love that question, right? Because we're always like, what can we do better? But I think it's totally valid to also look at what we're doing really well.
I would say that it's been nice to have some sort of like structure to our week. It's from week to week.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that we have made strides in that category. And just to add on, like, I feel like we've gotten better about having positive transitions through that routine. I remember more at the beginning of last year where it was more counting and kind of threatening. And now we have tapped into the power of playfulness. Like, for example, with our bedtime routine, it's like we transformed bedtime. Okay, it's time for bed. Like, I need you here by the time I count down or whatever, to it's the bedtime battle races, and we like wheelbarrow race to the bathroom, and we're all competing with the stuffed animals. And like, it's just like this whole thing to the point where the kids cannot wait to start bedtime routine.
Yeah. I appreciate you bringing that up, because I wasn't saying I think we did a good job of like militant routinism and let's keep it that way. I think it's been a very organic sense of routine, and I hope we can kind of keep that going. Cool.
Yeah. I have one more.
Yes.
I was just also feeling like one thing I definitely want to keep going is going to the temple on Sundays.
Yeah,
you had that too?
Yeah.
Do tell.
Well, it's been really meaningful for us because we get to contribute to our community in that way with the service that we do there. I feel like it's actually something that maybe as a family we're sort of growing into liking more in terms of even for the kids. Yeah. And as hard as it is, I think they actually are enjoying it more and more.
Yeah. I find it very spiritually grounding.
Yeah.
Every Sunday, because I feel like in this chapter of life, my spiritual practice, my sadhana, does not feel regulated the way that it should. And I often feel like I am charged with difficult choices where I either choose my sadhana or I choose my children in this moment. Just one example. Today, we had to get out of the door for an appointment. This is an example of parent math, okay? So if I had to get my first child to nap because she woke up an hour earlier than she normally does, we would have to leave the house earlier so the car ride would be long enough for her to nap before we had to go into an appointment, because she doesn't transfer into a stroller and stay asleep. And if she didn't take a nap, then she'd be like an utter mess. So then the choice in that moment was, I normally have time to do a very tiny little morning program before I go out the door. Do I do that and then cost my daughter her nap? Or do I not do that?
Yeah.
Those are just examples, but I feel like they happen to me all day.
Yeah.
I find it very comforting, the fact that we go to temple every Sunday, like this regular clockwork thing.
It's like an anchor.
Like that regularity of sadhana, that comfort of it, like I'm finding through going to the temple every Sunday. So yeah. So I had one last question for you. Is there anything that you've read lately or heard lately in the Bhakti world, scripture, wisdom, that is inspiring you this year as a parent? You listen to so much, like you're so good. Like whenever you do the dishes, you're listening to a class. So I know you're connected to the wisdom.
You give me more credit than I deserve. Recently, we facilitated a discussion around faith with our high school youth. And in preparing for that, one verse from the Gita that really stood out to me, chapter 9, text 16, where Krishna is saying that I am the ritual. In the conversation that we had, we also asked everybody to kind of explore the different elements that make up their faith and make kind of like a pie chart of what that looks like. So how much of your faith is, let's say, intellectually driven? How much of your faith is driven by the way it shows up in your day-to-day life? How much of your faith is based off of your connection to other people? And then the last component is how much of it is based off of the act of doing the rituals or the practices on a regular basis. And in creating my own pie chart, I realized that maybe I'm over-indexing on the intellectual part of it and under-indexing or under-appreciating the ritual part of it. And one of the things that I'm trying to commit to is having more regularity with my practice, which I feel like I actually need because I've become a little bit disconnected from it, especially in kind of early parenthood. And that's something that, has been inspiring me because I'm seeing an opportunity to do something that will help me feel a little bit more balanced as a person. What about you?
I was just thinking about how in Bhagavatam, there were a series of verses there where Kapila Dev, who is basically an incarnation of God, who ends up having a conversation with his mother about life after his father retires to the forest to focus on his spiritual sadhana 100% of the time, really. But part of this section was really emphasizing the importance of occupational duty and dharma and nature, and the importance of, because you engage in your fundamental nature or occupational duty, that's what gives you access to relationship with God and advancement, liberation, all of these things.
Yeah.
And like the verse specifically cites that criteria of engaging in who you are. I was just like reflecting on how important it is to accept who I am and what my nature is. In the context of parenting, especially in today's day and age, it's really easy to compare myself to other moms. Why can't I be a super crafty mom? Or why can't I be like an activity mom? But just leaning into my nature and embracing that reality of I cannot be all the types of moms. I'm going to be the mom that I am. And I will be the happiest and most inspired when I don't abandon myself and I kind of accept myself. And that's actually what's going to fuel this very connected, close relationship with my kids. So really remembering that our practice of bhakti really calls us to embrace who we are. It's vital to spiritual advancement. That's inspiring to me this year. So,
Right.
So let's wrap the podcast. One sentence, if there's something that you're taking away. One sentence only. Go.
It was nice that we agreed on independently a lot of things that we want to try to explore this year. And I would like to make it into tangible, clear things that we can try. One sentence.
A run-on sentence.
Run-on sentence, but one sentence. Okay, you.
My one takeaway is it's really nice to have space in your life to breathe. And it's so important to climb out of survival mode. One sentence. I stopped myself.
Nice.
All right. Well, this was nice.
Yeah.
I'm really glad we got to chat and be on the same page. I actually feel more connected.
Yeah.
Great. Well, with that, we did it.
You made it.
We made it through. The babies are still asleep, but it's now time to go to sleep. With that, everybody, thank you for listening. Please do find us on Instagram at bettertogether.vfp. Our favorite part of the podcast is being able to engage and connect with you on your thoughts, on your reflections. We will see you in our next episode. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Good night, everybody.